All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited, and all peoples, I am so excited to welcome to the podcast today, Emily Grace. And I have known Emily Grace for a while, actually. When I first started into the world of I think my coaching should go online. She was one of the first people that I got to admire because we were in a coaching group so long ago. So Emily, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here, Brian, and it's so nice to see you.
Yeah, truly. It's so nice to see you in your new house. Congratulations.
Yes.
Yay. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you'll get to see Emily's beautiful new office. So I'm glad to be with you. Really glad. And Emily, one of the reasons I was so excited about having you on the show is, and delighted that you were interested, is because what you do for actors and I would say this isn't just for actors, because what you do is you make it feel, to me, my experience of the way that you coach is you make everyone feel like they have a story to tell and that they can write. It feels very possible.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell, how did this become the thing that Emily gets excited about? Like, where did this come to you?
Well, how long do we have? So it's been an evolution, as you know, as a business person. The things that you focus on evolves over time. So I originally started my business after career heartbreak and devastation. I had this great experience landing this film that got all this buzz and press and won awards. And then it sort of fizzled out into nothing. And I didn't even have an agent. I booked the film on my own, and I just didn't know what I didn't know about the business. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have anyone guiding me on what I could have or should have or might have done at the time. So I started my business to help actors really understand marketing and how to treat their career like a business, and all of these tools that I had learned when I worked for a producer. So that really opened up my thinking to where actors can get stuck in terms of what they put their focus on. So that was the first incarnation.
Wait. I'm gonna stop you because what I hear though, the part that we skipped over was I was in this incredible film. I didn't know what the frick I was doing at the time. So the education you got was working in a producer's office. Can you take us back there just a little bit? Because I think that's super fascinating. What led you to decide I want to work for a producer, and what was it like what were you picking up every day to day? Can you take us back there?
For sure. Yeah. So I worked for a producer because I needed a job.
Yes.
And I was sick of waiting tables and temping and all those side gigs. I wanted to do something industry related. So I landed this job for an indie film producer, and we were making films in the $5 to $50 million budget range.
No small potatoes. No small
potatoes, like medium potatoes, Right. Uh-huh. And so what I was learning every day really was how much this business completely relies on relationships, and how important it is to focus on cultivating the relationships that you already have and building new relationships. That was literally all that producer did every day, was try to set up meetings. And for me, that was the eye opener. Like, he had goals. These are the kind of films I want to produce. So he was very clear in terms of the trajectory of his wheelhouse. And then every day it was like, who do I need to connect with to move these projects forward? So it was very, very laser focused, very intentional, the types of people he would connect with. And that, for me, I see actors throwing the spaghetti at the wall, and I just want to work, and please hire me. And it's very much about what's right in front of them, and not necessarily really saying no to things that aren't in the wheelhouse. And then when you're that open or that broad with your goals, it's really, really hard to move forward.
Yeah. And Emily, what I'm just hearing you say, which I think is such a great modeling you got to have from that producer, is like, I'm going to sit at my desk and I'm going to pick up my phone or get on my email, and I'm going to reach out to people where I don't know if I'm actually going to get something back. I don't know what the result is going to be. I'm just going to put, and that's a hard seat to sit in. That's like, okay, I might do work all day and not have anything come back to me. And so you were just observing this day after day. And was it ever like, did you find that the muscle that this producer had around this was something that you like grabbed by osmosis, or were like, what the frick, dude, like work on the stuff that's important? Like, how did you relate to that part of him doing that job? Like, what did you find inside of yourself?
Well, it was very aha moments for me of like, oh, what I wish I had done Because when I booked that film, I thought, oh, I'm done. And this film is going to speak for itself. And now people are going to come to me. And I didn't really understand how much follow-up I could have done, people I could have reached out to, or relationships I could have reignited. And so it helped me see where I had fallen short in terms of what I could have done. And I think it also it emboldened me to realize, like, you can just reach out to anyone and ask for stuff. Yeah. You really can. And a lot of people will say yes. And a lot of people will say no. And that's just the part of the game that we're all playing.
I love that, because what it taps in for me is like, you get to feel, to me, that would feel for most people like a little dangerous. Like, I'm a little dangerous. I'm going to reach out to people and they might say no. Like, there's something like sexy about that I love what you said, it emboldened you, because I think a lot of times we think of any kind of reaching out is how do I do this in a way where I don't annoy someone? Like, that's the entire intention behind reaching out, which is literally not, let's reach out from a place of fear and see how that goes for you. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So in the work that you do with actors right now, and I would imagine that people who aren't actors also might be coming to you. I imagine people who are writing, but can you tell me a little about the work that you do with actors so that people who are listening can really understand how you bring what you've just described to the work that you do?
Great. So in the last, I would say 2 years, I was getting really burnt out in the way that I was working with people. And I knew I needed to shift my focus of my business, and I wasn't really sure what it was going to look like. And then I kept having clients in my coaching programs that were creating content, that were writing scripts, that were creating projects for them to be in. And every time I had a client like that, I just lit up like a Christmas tree, like, oh, I can help you with this.
Got it.
And it was sort of parallel at the time with my own writing process. I had been wanting to write this script forever. I had tried in different formats, and I was really make a little bit of progress and then hate everything and then start again. I just was feeling really stuck in the writing process. So I sought out a teacher, and I took this amazing class, and it really helped me understand a writing process that allowed me to turn the idea I had into my head into something on the page that I was also excited about. Because I had turned ideas in my head into something on the page and thought it was shit. So this was really exciting. And as I was going through that process myself, I was then able to help my clients even more, especially in their writing process. And it just sort of became clear to me that is what I love doing. I love helping actors who want to create projects, help them do that and do it well.
So correct. And so before I want to go, I have 1,000 questions, but before I get to my 1,000 questions, here's my first one.
Okay.
First one is the actor who's listening, who goes, I don't know how to write. I don't know how to get started. I'm already turning off this podcast because this is not me. I'm bailing out. This is definitely not who I am. I'm not a person who writes. How do you work? I'm sure there's actors who come to you are like, I want to do this, but I don't know what I'm doing at all. How do you speak to that person who has this myth about themselves? Yeah.
Great. Okay. I would say half of the people that come to us don't know how to write, or they feel overwhelmed by the writing process. I think that is half of it. The other half of it, I think, are actors who think they know more about writing than they actually do. And that's why they feel frustrated and they haven't quite accepted that yet, which was where I came from. I thought, I'm an actor. I've read 1 million scripts and broken down all of these scenes, and I know how to craft a performance. I'm an award-winning actor, for fuck's sake. Like, I know how to write. Yeah. Right. So I had a false sense of confidence about how to write a script. So, one of the things that I'm really good at is breaking down a big project with a lot of moving parts, like going from idea in your head to a finished project, like not just the script, but like the finished produced script. That's a big project. So when you look at all of the steps at once, of course, you're going to feel overwhelmed and daunted and like, forget it. This is too much. I can't do it. So what I'm really good at is breaking it down into very small steps that are tangible, that are actionable, so that you're moving along a process to get from idea to finished script, but it doesn't feel like completely overwhelming. It just feels like you're focusing on the next step. And I think,
no, please go on. Yeah.
And I also think, the actor that's like, I don't want to write, probably shouldn't. If you don't want to write, don't write. But if you have an idea that keeps coming back to you, if you have a story that is really important to you, that you want to do something with, those are the people that I love to help, because you have to have the desire to do it, even if you don't have the knowledge. When you have that desire, that's when we can help you. We really have developed an incredible program with my friend who's a TV writer, who really, that's who I took the class with, that helped me write my script. So I roped her in, and she's also really incredible at teaching writing in a way that really clicked for me, that other teachers never clicked. So there's something really special, I think, about our combination and our skill sets that we bring, that we can help people get out of overwhelm and really get connected to that story, because you can do it if you want, if the desire is there.
I love that. And the reason I was interrupting, because I was thinking about that the actor, I love how you described, particularly the actor's like, I know about writing, I know about writing. I break down scripts every day. This is my thing, of course. And so what happens is, I wanted to ask you, where's the first mistake with I'm bailing now? Where's the hiccup always occur for that actor who is overly confident? Is it like, I've got through written one scene, or I have my idea and I've been sitting on it for 3 years? Is it that kind of land?
There are different versions of that manifest in a couple of ways. One is they have an idea that they keep thinking about and thinking about and thinking about and thinking about, and then they're not doing anything with it. There's that manifestation. There is the person who has so many ideas that they can't pick just one to focus on. So then they're just like spinning around in ideas, and they are indecisive. So
you're not describing anyone listening to this podcast right now. I don't know what you're talking about. We're all picking out our multiple choice of who we are right now.
Yes, yes, exactly. I should make a quiz. Yes. I should make a quiz for this. And then there's someone who has started to write, like you were saying, maybe they've written 1 or 2 scenes, but they're not really sure where it's going. So then they keep changing their mind and deleting and starting again, or they keep changing the format. So I'll do a web series. No, it should be a feature. Actually, it should be a TV series. No, it's going to be a short film. And then they sort of just spin around again in that place of indecision and not moving the idea forward.
Got it. Well, yeah, you identified every thought inside of my head right now. Now I want to write something. Okay. So you started this program, and your program specifically works with femme identifying people. Is that correct? So it's
we have expanded very recently. I decided to open it to all genders.
Got it.
It's still, the focus is actresses or femme identifying. That is still the forefront, and most of our clients are that. But I did decide to open it to all genders because it's just simpler. Just simpler.
Well, also that tells me they were getting different actors from different backgrounds and different genders that were saying, hey, I want to do this. And so you want to right. Totally get it. And can you tell everybody about why you chose the name of your company and the name of your company?
Yes. So my company is called Pickford West Society, and it's inspired by the golden age of Hollywood, which I am obsessed with. I read all of the biographies, and from the 20s to the 40s, I love the glamour. And most people might not realize the 1920s, the types of roles that women were playing were so complex. They were phenomenal. They were bosses. They were fallen women that had many lovers. And they were these really ballsy, amazing women before the Hays Code and the censorship came along, because the religious right, or the Protestants, there was very religious morality objections to how people were being on screen, what they were influencing the young people and all this stuff. So there was this whole political reason why movies became censored. But before that time, if you actually go back to that era, the roles that women were playing were phenomenal, amazing. And it's taken until very recently for them to be able to play those kind of roles again and not just be relegated to like the wife or the spouse or the supporter, while the man goes off and does all the fun, exciting stuff.
Right.
Okay, so back to your question, Pickford West. So it's a combination of two names, Mary Pickford and Mae West, who are both pioneering women in this era of the golden age of Hollywood. Mary Pickford was one of the most famous actresses in the world, who also started her own studio, which in the 1920s was absolutely revolutionary. Now it's very commonplace for actresses to have their own production company. She was the first when the studios controlled everything. And she was so powerful and so famous and had so much leverage. She was like, fuck this. I want to own the rights to my own project. So I'm going to create my own studio. And she gathered her husband and two of their friends. Charlie Chaplin was one of them. Douglas Fairbanks was her husband. It was a history lesson. And so they created United Artists, which is a label and a brand that's still around today. And Mae West, I really gravitated towards because she was so incredibly ahead of her time. She was ballsy. She was bold. She was sex positive in the 1930s. She was an advocate for gay rights. Like, she really pushed the envelope through her work in a way that was revolutionary at the time. She had a play called Sex, which I think it was a story that included like a gay relationship, and the blowback was so huge. She got arrested. They changed, the theater doors closed in the 1930s, and she kept pushing the envelope for her entire career. She worked for like 7 decades, just really phenomenal, pioneering, bold, amazing women when there was no playbook. This was still a new industry. They were finding their way, and they really carved out areas for themselves that are still around today. Like, the winner should come up and see me sometime. Mae West wrote that line. She was a writer. She got her first movie at 39.
Wow.
In the 30s, Brian.
Yeah.
That's like 69 in 22nd. What century are we in?
I don't know how you say that anymore. I think we're in the 21st century.
I think so too.
Yes. Please, everyone who's listening, do not shame us, please.
Yes. 2020 was like a century.
Yes. So wait, what you just said is so interesting, because there's something that you said about your work that when we were talking before this interview, we got some talked about, what we're going to talk about today and how do we want to focus this conversation. One of the things you said is actors tend to write roles that are not good for them, which, Mary Pickford and Mae West certainly weren't doing, or it wouldn't have worked. So what is the trap door that they fall through? What is the mistake that actors are making when they're writing material for themselves?
I am so glad you asked. This is my wheelhouse. We could talk about this all day. Okay, so most actors feel compelled to create a project because they have a story to tell, they have something to say, and they are not getting booked for the kind of roles they know they're capable of, right? They're boring, they're not complex, they're the hot girl, whatever it is. So there's a desire to create a role that really showcases what you can do. Where they might fall short in that goal is in the development of the character. There's something missing. So there's a couple of traps, like the quiz we talked about before, what kind of writer, where are you stuck in the writing process? There are a couple of traps that actors fall into, and writers in general. What I do can apply to anyone. I just really know how to think like an actor. Mm-hmm. So when they're creating their role for themselves, I really know what that process is like. So one of the traps is they don't think like a writer because they're thinking like an actor. That's what they're trained to do. And so what can often happen in the writing process is either only the protagonist is compelling, like the role that they're going to play. They put all of their eggs into that basket, and that's a really nuanced, amazing character. And then all of the other characters are boring and one-dimensional.
Oh, we've
right?
all
They're
seen
just,
movies like that and we don't
yes,
like them.
right?
Yes.
They're just there to be foils to make the protagonist look good.
Yeah.
So that's one of the traps. Another trap is when you're writing a character for yourself, it can be very challenging to view yourself from the writer's lens. And so what happens is all the other characters are compelling and nuanced and interesting, and the protagonist based on yourself is boring and passive, and things just kind of happen to them, and they're not the character who's actually driving the story.
Also boring.
Also boring.
I've seen that movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Also boring. And there was one other, let me see. There was one other thing. Oh, and then the other trap that I see people struggle with as well is not always, but probably the first project is inspired by personal experience or, inspired by, based on. And what happens in that situation is sometimes the desire to be authentic and tell events as they actually happened is actually really boring because it's not structured in a narrative way that's going to get the audience to go along for the journey. So those are sort of the three traps that actors especially can fall into when they're developing something for themselves that actually isn't serving their desire, which of course is to write the role that they were born to play.
Right. Yeah. And I know I don't want to be so reductive as to say just boring, but I'm just saying as a watcher, that's where we land is you're like, oh, sure, totally functional in the role, but like didn't really
clicking
care. Like,
away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to watch past the first 15 seconds. I'm not interested, or I'm watched 3 minutes in and I'm like, is anything ever going to happen? Like, I totally get what you're saying. And I love what you just said about the based in true, an authentic story that's actually happened to them sometimes sparks the inspiration of what they want to write. And then what I'm hearing you say is they can be so like religiously addicted to exactly what happened that they're no longer being like, oh, well, how do we make a good movie? Which is a completely different question. How do we make a good short film or whatever it is? That's what you see happening?
Yes.
Yeah. And so whenever I'm talking to actors, one of the things that I always say to them is, please be willing to look bad. Do you ever find that they're always making characters that are like perfect people?
I wouldn't say they're trying to make the characters perfect people, but they're trying to write a perfect script on the first try.
Tell me more about that. Talk to more about that.
I think there is this perfectionism, especially, as actors. Oh, I just want to get it right. Like, I just want them to tell me what they want, tell me what to do. Like, I just want to get it right. And that really translates into writing a script. So they'll write a scene and be like, ugh, this is bad. Delete. Oh, let me try again. Ugh, this is bad. So there's like this deep intrinsic pressure to like write a perfect script on the first draft, which of course is not possible. No one can do that. Yeah. Writing is going to be messy, but when you get something on the page, then you have something to work with and tweak and change and make better. But I definitely see a lot of people struggling with trying to get it perfect in their mind before they'll commit it to the page. And then they just get stuck in that loop for a really long time because they're uncomfortable letting it be bad, or they don't feel like it's okay to let it be bad.
So the image I just got is, that age-old picture of the person with all the papers crinkled up all around them on the floor because they're ripping the page, right? So would your advice be to someone who's like, don't delete so fast, like write a scene where it's like, this happens now, we'll figure out the scene later, skip to the next section? Like, do you find people writing more like a patchwork rather than like straight through? What can you give us a little insight there?
Here, it's a great question. There's different, every writer has their own process. So what I'm suggesting might not resonate for everyone. But one of the things that was life-changing for me and that I've seen really be helpful to my clients is outline, like create a pitch for your project before you actually write the script. Because what happens is if you just sit down and start writing scenes and you haven't actually mapped out your story, like, good luck.
Great. You heard it here first, guys. Here's how to get frustrated with yourself and want to quit writing is just start writing.
Yes. If you just start writing, that's where you get into trouble because you haven't let the idea cook long enough. So you're trying to figure out your story as you're writing, and that can be very hard to do. Someone who has 25 screenplays under their belt, maybe they can do that because they're doing it in their mind automatically as a process.
Right.
But I definitely think it's helpful. There are two really helpful things. One is what I was just saying, like create a pitch of just like the really broad strokes of what this story is about, what the conflict is, and what the resolution is going to be. So you have a roadmap of where this story is going. Before you even get to that, though, what is incredibly helpful is to develop your characters. Before you write story, before you outline, when you lay the foundation of really compelling characters that are nuanced, that are flawed, that are designed to drive that conflict and drive the story, that is going to help you exponentially in your writing process.
Okay, wait. So I'm going to pause for the cause because my eyes glazed over, then they got locked back in because I was like, wait, my roadmap is to do an outline. No, my roadmap is to come character development. So if I'm going to really step way back. So when you say character development, I related to that like an actor would, which is like, what is the background of this character? How were they raised? What was their job before this day today? Do they have a job? Is that the kind of stuff you're talking about? Like what motivates them every day? What gets them up in the morning? Is that the kind of character study you're talking about? Or is it different than that?
It's different than that.
Tell us.
That, yes, you will need to do that work for all of your characters, 100%. Okay. That is definitely a behind the scenes writer tool that may not ever show up on screen, just like with an actor. It may not ever show up on screen, but you've done that work. It's in your body. You know it.
Yep.
That work is important. What I'm talking about is like a writing tool to develop a character, which we teach in our program, and it's called the character square.
Okay.
Do you want
to give us a taste? Can you give us a little taste? Yeah, give us a little taste. Wait, okay. Emily, I have a question just to help us understand more. Is it possible to like use a film as we talk about this? I was thinking like, what if we pretended to use like the lead character in Bridesmaids or something? Would that work as an example, or do you have one you like better?
I'm going to use one that I've actually done the work around.
Perfect. Yeah.
I don't like to wing it.
Yeah, let's not wing it. That way we'll be able to take it away even better. Go for it.
Okay. I have two films you can choose from.
Great. I love it.
One is The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Okay.
Have you seen that film?
I have. Yes.
Okay. We can do the protagonist for that, or we can do the antagonist for The Devil Wears Prada.
Let's do the antagonist for The Devil Wears Prada. So, so that's Meryl?
Yes, that's Meryl Streep.
Okay, great.
Okay. I'm actually going to teach
English class. Teach me back to English class. Protagonist and antagonist. Okay.
I'm actually going to teach this later today.
Oh, great. So you get a little practice right here. Great.
Yes. Okay. So first, let's talk about what the character square is.
Okay.
Every major character, your protagonist, your antagonist, all of the major characters will have a character square, which are 4 major elements, which are the external want, the superpower, the fatal flaw, and the inner need.
Okay, say it again. Say them all again. Just say them all again so we can all get it, right?
External want, superpower, fatal flaw, and inner need.
Okay.
So let's talk about what those are. And this tool I learned from Olivia, who is my co-teacher inside of the course. I did not make it up. I learned it.
Great.
I didn't make this up. I learned it from someone else, and I'm going to teach it to you so you can learn it too. All right. So the external want is the character's tangible and obvious goal that propels them through the story.
That we're all aware of because there's no way we can miss it because it's so obvious, right?
And they are also aware of it. This is something they are actively pursuing, and it's clear to see if they have achieved it or not achieved it. The superpower is the quality that makes that character special, something that makes them unique and sets them apart from other characters. And it's not like a invisibility superpower. It's like, it's like someone who's really good at their job. That might be their superpower.
Got it. Yeah.
It also is in service of helping them pursue that external goal. So those two things are sort of go together in tandem.
Got it.
The fatal flaw is what prevents them from getting what they want. Like it can be in the way of the external want. It's also something internal. So it's not like an outside characters preventing them. It's like
Right.
something within themselves. And it might be in the way of that external want, but it's definitely in the way of their inner need, which is the void within the character that needs to be filled. And typically the inner need is ultimately what the story is really about, is whether or not that character is going to get the inner need. And sometimes a character is aware of their inner need. More often they're not consciously aware of it, but it is the thing that if they get that inner need, the story is a happy ending. If they don't get the inner need, it's a tragedy.
and this is all, and I'm imagining this is also, if we were going to say, like, if a film had a moral of a story, it was the learning around the inner need. Not that every film does have a moral of a story, but that's what we're talking about a little bit.
Yes, exactly. And in order to get that inner need, they have to overcome the fatal flaw.
Got it. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah.
So let's talk about Meryl.
Right.
Let me pull up my notes.
And by Meryl, we actually mean, what is her character's name? I just forgot.
Her name is Miranda Priestly.
Yes.
Okay.
Why is everything moving so slowly?
All right. Now, this might not be a perfect analysis, but it's enough to get us going.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So in The Devil Wears Prada, Miranda Priestly is the editor-in-chief of Runway magazine. I know because I just watched it the other day to do this analysis.
I mean, I probably watched it 5 times, so we're good.
Yes. Okay. So she's the editor-in-chief of Runway magazine. And now she's the antagonist,
right?
Not the protagonist. So she's not the one driving the story. We're really following Andrea.
Right.
In my opinion, Andrea is actually the weaker character in the story. She's not as well defined or as complex or nuanced or interesting.
Right.
Sorry. Okay. So Miranda, her external want is to make Runway the perfect magazine. That is her goal. She's tangibly pursuing that goal at all times, everywhere during this film. She wants it to be flawless. She wants it to be perfect. Her superpower, which of course helps her get that external want, is she has impeccable taste. She has an incredible eye for fashion. That is her superpower, right? She is the most impeccable of everyone in the film.
In the world.
In the world. Yes, exactly. And that's how her character is set up. Like, this is the one opinion that matters.
Right.
Is a line from the film.
Got it.
Her fatal flaw is her standards are impossible. They're impossible. You cannot meet them. You see her throw hoops for all of her staff to jump through, and most of them fail because the standards are impossible, which leads to her constant disappointment.
Right.
But her inner need is meaningful connection. So do you see how impossible standards
get in the way?
Gets in the way of that meaningful connection, right?
It's not the dragon lady about.
That's right. The dragon lady.
Yes. Yeah.
That's right. She's a dragon lady. Now we know her inner need is meaningful connection because she actually has a moment in the film when they go to the fashion show in Paris and she has no makeup in her hotel room and Andy comes in.
Spoiler alert if anyone has never seen this film, which like
from 2006. Sorry. She does have a moment of meaningful connection when she reveals that her husband's filed for divorce and she's in a moment of vulnerability. She opens up in a way that she never has before. And she does actually have, for like 1 second, a meaningful connection with the other character, which she immediately shuts down because she's not the protagonist.
Right.
So if she overcomes her fatal flaw or not is not really the trajectory of this film.
Got it. No, wait, pause for the cause. There are films where more than one person can come through some kind of growth like that, correct?
Yes. She does have growth. But in terms of the protagonist versus the antagonist or the other characters, the protagonist will have the most transformation. Right. She does have that moment of transformation. And you're exactly right. That's why these character squares are there. So we can see these characters have their moment of transformation where they do overcome that fatal flaw to get the inner need. Yeah. Now, in this case, it didn't last very long. Right. But what we see in the end of the movie is after Andy quits,
right,
which is part of her transformation, she finally stops selling her soul to the devil who wears Prada. She finally stands up for herself. That's her transformation. She applies for this other job, and Miranda actually gives her a good reference.
Right.
She says, of all my assistants, she was my biggest disappointment. If you don't hire her, you're stupid.
Right.
Which is her way of meaningful connection. That's
right.
It kind of
has moved me. I have tears in my eyes because it's such a special moment in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she does also have that growth and transformation. And even though she can't really admit it, she actually did have a meaningful connection with the Andy character.
Well, and would you say that it's a piece of inspired filmmaking that we don't even get to see it on camera? Like, you don't get to even see this because we're not going to let you see Miranda have that moment because she's not going to have that journey. The journey's not about her. So we're not going to show you the moment where she was like, Andy's such a disappointment. So you should be like, we're not going to see that even because the story needs to remain Andy's. Does that kind of how that works?
Yes, because yes, I think you're exactly right, because this is technically Andy's story, but really when you have Meryl Streep starring, it's Meryl Streep's story. I mean, it is, right? She's not full villain. She's not a full antagonist.
Right.
The way that they position her, she's actually quite standing up for her belief system and why it is that way, because it's Meryl Streep.
Right.
But yes, this is Andy's story. So we're really tracking Andy's full transformation, whereas Miranda only just has a little tiny transformation.
Right. So this is like such a master. So this is we've only touched the tip of the iceberg, obviously, here, Emily. And I obviously want to make sure people know how to go a little bit further with you. So can you tell anyone who's already like, I'm writing a script right now. So if people want to go a little further, can you tell them where to go to do something with the information they've already received from you today?
Yes. So we're talking about the character square.
Yeah.
Which to me is the foundation of your script. Before you get to scenes, before you get to your outline, you really need to have a handle on your characters and how they're designed to challenge one another and create conflict. If you can crack that code, you are going to be in such good shape for whatever you create. So the character square is the tool that I've been sharing. So I have a free video that talks you through the character square like we did. It has a worksheet for you to implement it. And it's also designed specifically if you are an actor who wants to create your dream role. It walks you through a process to be able to design a character square that really captures your essence as a character.
Oh my gosh, this is the juiciest thing ever. I'm so excited about this. Yes. Oh God.
It's exciting.
How do we get it?
You just go to writeyourdreamrole.com.
Oh my God,
the URL is so URL.
Good. Yes, writeyourdreamrole.com. I love it. So wait, and so there we're going to be able to learn even more about this and how to do it specifically for ourselves. So I love this true foundation you've set up for us. I want to ask a question. Can I ask a question about the square? Okay. Yeah. So in the way you described Miranda Priestly in the role, we don't get to hear her inner need till way near the end of the film. Is that something that is typical that you would find in a secondary character, their inner need might not be revealed till later? Or would you feel like that's like, can you tell me a little bit around story crafting there?
Yeah. So the writer obviously knows from the outset what it is. The audience might not realize it until the end of the film. That's sort of because that's the trajectory that they're on. There will be hints about it peppered throughout the script and themes that return again and again. But yes, like the writer will know what it is. The audience, this is why I don't like to analyze stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
Because you need to go on that entire journey to really see how all of the themes come together and what that inner need actually is based on how the film ends. You don't get the transformation until they've gone through all of the challenges and the conflict.
Got it. And I'm also just thinking about, I'm thinking about like Andy's character. She also learned something about herself, but also like, oh, it is okay to value an art besides the art that I'm a part of. Like she becomes someone who like understands fashion, which isn't necessarily like the most deepest journey in the world. That would not be very interesting if that was the end, because that's a montage that happens in about 12 minutes. We got
That's
it.
Right. That's right.
But so there's other journeys that we have along the way. I think that is part of what makes the film exciting. So this is when you were talking about boring films earlier, where it was like, we show one angle, like I'm only going to talk about their one thing that they're doing and nothing else. Like that sure, Run Lola Run might be a version of how that worked for someone. But in reality, these other facets of the character get to come through because I can see the square being something that one scene can be written through one piece of that. Like this scene is right. Like this scene is only about their outer need, or this scene is them truly revealing their inner need in this one, or that kind of thing. It's not called outer need though. I got that wrong, didn't I?
External want and inner need.
Got it. Great. So don't listen to me. Get the download, writeyourdreamworld.com. Great. So in all the stuff that you're doing, I'd love to ask this question is, what have your clients taught you the most in all this? What are these actors who are writing taught you?
Oh my gosh, that's a wonderful question. For me, my favorite part about the program that we've created and the people who are attracted to it is the community. There is just such an amazing community of people who are showing up for themselves. They are overcoming their own doubt and second guessing. They support one another in such an amazing way. And, originally, I was only working with women, which I think there's just something really special about the energy of a circle of women who are really supportive. And, I've learned along the way that essence can be expanded to a bigger circle that is all inclusive to all types of people. But I think for me, the gift is just always the amazing way that people show up for one another. I just think that's really, because writing is, you can do it in a vacuum, but it will never be as good as when you are risking sharing and risking it being bad and allowing yourself to receive feedback. Like, it's always better when it's a collaborative process, when other people can chime in and point out blind spots. And that is a huge risk because it's uncomfortable, especially if you feel like you're just learning what you're doing. No one wants to feel like what they're doing is bad. Mm-hmm. And that takes so much courage to put yourself out there in that way and let it be bad and allow yourself to receive support and feedback in a way that is encouraging and supportive to you.
I love that, because what you just said is the thing that no one ever thinks of when I want to write my script. And that this incredible benefit is, especially inside of your program, is of course the community that is there to support this change that's also inside of you and to your script. It's not just your script. Let's be real. That part of this whole journey is like identifying yourself suddenly as, I'm a writer who has opinions, who can put them on paper and tell a story, and who you're becoming. And who you're becoming needs to be in community, because how do you know who you are without them there? I
100%.
Yeah, right. So I have a question that as the challenge. So one of the things that I always talk about people when they have an idea is be mindful of, this might be where we end this conversation, we'll see, is that when you have an idea is like, don't start spitting it out to everyone in the world, because I feel like kinesthetically your body is like, I've already gone through the experience of telling everyone my idea. I'm not interested in sitting down and writing it down anymore. How do you balance that? Like, the way I would describe it is like writing a movie by committee, which is like every Superman movie is like everyone in the entire, Universal world is like, this is not good. We like this. There must be this character. Like, it's like a movie that's written by a committee, as well as the person who writes like the speed chases versus like someone who has a clear opinion and a story they want to tell. How do you balance the like writer's voice and feedback? How do you help with that? Like, do you ever tell someone, whoa, let's hold on that feedback? Like, where's the dance that you're doing to allow someone to be so singular?
It's a good question. I think what I've seen in terms of like oversharing your idea to the point that you no longer feel compelled to write it, I've never seen that happen.
Great, good. Well, I'm wondering though, because you create a safe space. So the difference to me is like telling rando, everyone, I'm going to write the script. And then you're like, to me, that's when I've seen it, but I hear I don't want to discount the experience you're also having, but sorry, I'm gonna let you keep going.
Okay. Let me think about how I want to answer. Yeah. I've never seen that happen. I think part of the reason I've never seen that happen is because when people come to us, they have an idea, but they aren't quite sure where it's going or what it's going to look like. I think that can only be discovered in the doing. I don't think anyone comes to the table with a perfect idea, perfectly laid out, and they know exactly what they're going to do. The only way that you arrive in that place is in the doing. And part of the doing is, as we were talking about, is sharing and getting feedback and testing your idea and seeing if it's landing. And all of that makes this idea that you have in your head that isn't quite finished, it just makes it so much better than you thought, than you could just think up on your own. So for me, I think part of the exciting journey of writing is you don't know what you're going to end up with. You don't know what feedback is going to ring true or resonate or open up a whole other chapter that you weren't even expecting. I think it just being in community as you are being creative always makes your idea better.
I love it. It reminds me, but what you made me think of is like even like wipes away the fog. Like by being around these other people, they're wiping away the fog. So your idea becomes more and more clear to you. Or like when you have a cookie cutter and they help like push away the other dough, like all that other idea gets clear. So then we feel this overwhelm of ideas. The community is what helps you zero out. And here's the story that you're birthing. Here's actually what we're identifying about the story that is so much clearer. And then, a clear story is more exciting to watch, obviously.
Yes. And the community. And I think just having the right tools to snap into focus this idea that might sort of feel vague or isn't quite developed. Like when you have a tool like a character square, that automatically sets you up to clarify what this story is about and what this character is going towards, that's driving your story forward. That alone will help you create a story that's really powerful and engaging.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that because to me, the hatchling writers who are listening, who are like, I think I have an idea. It makes it feel very, very possible.
Yes.
So I just appreciate that so much and the space that you create. So writeyourdreamworld.com is where we get the fabulous, awesome download that you've talked about.
I can't believe that URL was available.
I mean, so I'm amazed. I'm amazed. It's so good. Is there anything else you want to leave this audience with that you want them to know? Like, is there anything you want to say to the person who's listening, who's like, yeah, but it's not me. My story isn't good enough. Or yeah, but I can't start it. Like mine isn't worth it. Oh yeah, but I don't have that talent. Is there anything else you want to leave that person with particularly?
Yes, I really do. This comes up a lot. I'm actually getting a little emotional about it. Like, this comes up a lot in the program. Is like, I don't think my idea is good enough. Do I have enough? No one's going to care about my story. I think every creative person struggles with that. Is it good enough? Are people going to care? And I love to point to actress, creator developed content that has been so resonant. I think of Michaela Cole, whose story is so amazing and so powerful, has like blown open the conversation about things that might be triggering to people. She went through something horrible that was life-changing, that could have absolutely crushed her as a person and dimmed her light and made her hide and live the rest of her life in fear and like not wanting to share her story with anybody. What she did instead was use that horrifying, awful experience and turn it into a piece of art. And that art resonates with people around the world who have been through a similar situation, who can relate with those dark feelings, with trying to navigate through it. Like whatever you've been through in your life can be a catalyst for change for someone else when you are willing to open yourself and be vulnerable and turn that experience into art. For me, that is the power of storytelling. It is the most powerful tool that we have to connect, to be a catalyst for change, to think about things in a different way. And again, that goes back to the courage. It takes courage to put yourself out there like that. But think about what made you want to be an actor in the first place. It was probably sitting in the theater, sitting in the audience, watching a piece of story that did something to you, that ignited you, that excited you, that made you think about something different. And you went, I see myself up there. I feel seen and I feel heard. That is what you are to someone else. It just takes the courage to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I love that. And part of what I love what you're saying, I think, is and that's such a beautiful example, is anyone who is thinking like you have to have an extraordinary in either direction, positive or negative experience, to be able to write is just not the truth. It is your internal journey. This goes back to, I think, to our other storytelling episodes, is the internal journey that you've had is what's it doesn't have to be that you've had horrific things happen to you, that you have to have a story that's able to tell. When you were in a moment of horror, when you were about to step on a bus, like when you're about to go meet, your girlfriend's parents for the first time, whatever it is, like that there is, that those things all can can reveal things about the human character, and those kind of moments where we lean forward or feel seen. So I think that's such a important thing for us to take away. I'm so grateful that you came here, Emily Grace, today and shared all this with me. I'm motivated. I feel like I have to be a writer now. I'm so annoyed at you because now it all feels so possible that I feel like, great, got to get my character square, got to do my download and get started. So everyone, if you want to keep going, if you're excited about today, please go to writeyourdreamworld.com and get this awesome freebie and show Emily Grace some love. And we're just so grateful for having you today. Thank you.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Brian.
For sure.